leather gloves, we're slapping in hands. Popcorn and peanuts, we're working the stands. Pink cotton candy, love on a stick. He's chasing the beer that circle the lips. Play ball, play ball. Load up the bases and smack it right over the wall.
Play ball.
Play ball.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Not yet. No, not yet. Not yet. Good. Hold it. Already? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Laughter Saves Lives. Live. There it is. She has a new wrinkle in there. Richie doesn't move that much.
I got like air fingers over
I
there.
like that.
Yeah.
Yes. Tonight's show is brought to you by the law firm of Barasch and McGarry, lawyers for the 9/11 community. Thank you, Michael Barasch, for your support. As you can see tonight, Rich Walker is not here. Not here. Richie has another rash. He will not be in tonight. But we have the lovely Nicole LaMonica,
Thank you.
who is a guest and is filling in as a co-host also. Nicole brings to the table laughter, intelligence,
Thank you.
beauty,
Thanks.
nothing that Richie gives us. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm
Hopefully
excited to be
Richie's
here.
rash continues for another week or two. Then we have a little Nicole back. So it is nice to have you here.
Nice.
You thank you for filling in at the last minute because Richie and I had a miscommunication. He's doing a show for Danny Calabrese tonight, and they couldn't find another comic who had a funny 4 minutes. So they needed Richie. So Nicole is filling in. I was on your show how many years ago?
Oh man.
10? Is that long?
I
Yeah.
feel like it was almost 10 years ago.
And that show was called?
Which the show?
I don't know, whatever.
Oh, okay, so
What was it called?
It was a socially awkward probably production when Steve and I were doing it
All right.
together at the Villa.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it was like way back.
I don't think I was on that one, though. I don't think I was on that one at the Villa. Where is it?
At the Villa Monaco, you were.
You think?
Yeah, my father's restaurant. That was.
The food was, I remember the food was good.
Yeah, you were there.
And then the other show was called?
You were there.
The other show was called?
Oh, the Gagoot Show.
And that's when she was known as Gagoot.
Yeah.
No,
So
that was it.
I was actually a shout out to the Gagoot Show.
Yes.
That I was a guest on it last
night. And Benny is the one that got me this job, so to speak. Benny introduced me to Bobby.
Oh.
And Bobby has been hating Benny ever since because of that. But it's nice to have you here. I wanted to throw a few things by you. I thought of this miscommunication today that Richie and I had.
Right.
And this happened to me at work when I was at the fire department, the FDNY, the bravest, as we're called, right? The bravest. And I was driving the chief. So I had to, be on duty the following morning driving the chief. And I called the chief's office and his aide answered. And I said, hey, what do I have to do to get off tomorrow? And he said, you just got to tell me. I said, great. I hung up the phone and I thought I just told him.
Oh, no.
All right. So now it's 9:00 in the morning and my phone, I was going to play tennis with another lieutenant who was off. And I get a phone call from the chief. He answered the phone. I said, hello. He goes, John, this is Chief Hanley. He goes, Chief, how you doing? He goes, good, buddy. How are you? I go, good. He goes, what are you doing today? I go, I'm playing tennis with Lieutenant Bates. He goes, great, because your ass is supposed to be sitting next to me right now.
No.
Where are you? I go, I'm home, Chief. He goes, we got you covered. Enjoy your tennis game.
Oh, my goodness.
Isn't that cool? But have you ever had a situation where that was like a stressful thing where all of a sudden somebody calls you and you're like, oh, my God, I forgot.
Yes. So, okay, when I worked at my dad's restaurant, I took an order. That was it. It was almost like a $450 order of food, right?
Okay.
And the lady was like, I need this for a bereavement luncheon tomorrow.
Shoot.
And we want it delivered at 12 o'clock. And I was like, okay, great. No problem. We had everything. So I show up to the house the next day with all of the food and everything. And she said, I didn't pay for this food. I was just inquiring about the food. I didn't put a deposit down or pay for it. So I was like, oh no. And it was my fault because I didn't ask her for a deposit. And
Right.
it was my mistake. And
She was just getting prices, so to speak.
She was just getting prices.
Right.
But she
How
gave
much
me
it
the
is.
whole order
Right,
that she
right.
wanted. Like it sounded like that's what was gonna happen.
Oh.
So now I couldn't tell my dad that
You had to
I
eat all of it?
So I paid my father $450.
Oh, no.
He didn't know that was mine. And then I brought the food to the chiropractor's office and gave them all food. And I was like, okay.
They were like loving you.
Yeah, I was like, I'd rather just eat the $450 than have the wrath of my dad being like, I told you need to take a deposit. I was like, I learned my lesson. I learned.
So today was a big day in nursery school for Lillian Virginia Lollapalooza Petunia, my granddaughter, who's going to be 4. Today was Y Day in animal school. The animals started with the letter Y.
So it was a yak.
Now, yes, it was a yak. I thought that was kind of easy this week.
A yellow-tailed.
Yeah, there was a lot of yellow things.
Yellow.
There was a lot of yellow things. And then there was a Yeti bird.
Oh.
Which would have been cool. But a few weeks ago, the people that answered correctly with walrus are in the finals. All right. So if you answered yak before the show, you are now moved one ahead. Right. So they had to answer yak before the start of the show.
Okay.
And the last 2 people I'll have on, we'll give them something, and we're going to give them a shirt or something.
Oh,
very fun, very exciting.
Yeah,
Nicole.
it's exciting.
This is Laughter Saves Lives live, Les. Giving out shirts and stuff. So we were talking about pickleball.
Oh yeah.
Hey Bobby, can we talk pickleball? Could you throw that ball in the air and I hit it? Wait. Good. Up.
Hey.
So, but we've had off last week for pickleball. The league had off. We're starting again next week. But I played twice. I played with my 2 daughters down the park the other day. My one daughter, Christina, who played with me the week before in the league, filled in for Bridget Kavanaugh. Bridget Kavanaugh. And she came down. She had fun down. Let's play again. Let's play Saturday. So we went down there. We met some nice people. We're playing. And my daughter's like, where's Olivia? Where's my other daughter? Olivia shows up late, goes walking down, doesn't even have a paddle. And says, Olivia, you want to play? She goes, Dad, can you just take me to breakfast? I go, what? We're exercising here. What do you mean breakfast? Oh, please. Christina goes, yeah, here's my paddle. So she played 1 game.
Okay.
And then I took them
And you
to
took
breakfast.
the breakfast. Okay.
Which is nice for me. I don't get to sit with my 2 daughters,
That's sweet.
alone often,
How old are they, your daughters?
My daughters are now 32, 24.
Okay.
32, 24. And, they just make fun of me. I don't get a word in edgewise. I'm an idiot, That's why I love to go away and teach. I went away a few weeks ago.
What do you teach?
I teach hazardous materials related stuff, the fire departments, the military. I'm very smart, Nicole. Nicole's looking at me like this. He's an idiot. How does he do that?
That's
He really
amazing.
teaches other people?
That's great. You're going to teach me how to play pickleball.
I am. I love teaching. Right, Les? I love teaching people pickleball because you network. It's fun. We laugh. So anyway, so I teach the guys, and they say something like this to me. Wow, I didn't know hazmat stuff could be so interesting and fun. John, you made that class fun. John, you know so much. And then I get home in 5 minutes. I'm an idiot. I'm like, Dad, don't you Dad? So I need to go away and feel, I need to get to another state. When I go to another state, I feel good. And then I come home and check this out, Nicole Monaco.
Tell me.
September 27th, I think it is.
Okay.
Laughter Saves Lives fundraiser. Our first bocce tournament. Come on!
I want to play.
Come on!
That's fun.
Yeah,
I love playing bocce.
I'll send you the stuff.
Do.
Yeah, I'll send you the stuff. We're gonna have 16 teams, I think. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I found a wonderful gentleman from the what bocce club is it? They're gonna run the whole freaking thing for me. I'm just selling the tickets. They're doing everything.
That's awesome.
You get there early, have a little breakfast, little bagels, little
Where
juice.
is it going to take place?
It's going to be, is it Oyster Bay or is it Huntington? I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. I'll get the flyer up soon. It was just all solidified. So I'm excited about that. Easter. Did you have a nice Easter?
I did have a beautiful Sunday.
What did you do for Easter Sunday?
So I went to church Sunday morning, and I actually taught Sunday school. I wasn't able to
on Easter?
Yeah, so I wasn't in I wasn't in service that day, so I teach the little kindergarten kids Bible study.
That's great.
On once a month every Sunday, and I actually work at my church Monday through Friday as a kindergarten teacher assistant. So that's where I am when I'm not doing. I do like a lot of things. I'm on like a lot of different.
Well, you're gonna be back as a guest later. We'll talk more.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But Easter was wonderful. I call it Resurrection Sunday because fueled by the Holy Spirit.
Did you have an Easter bonnet?
I did not have an Easter bonnet, but I did wear a dress that my mom bought me.
Okay.
And she was like, "You're gonna wear this for Easter, right?" And I'm like, "Yes, Mom, I will wear the dress."
Mom is still buying you the dresses for Easter.
She still is buying.
That's adorable.
It is.
That's adorable.
Cute. So I sent her a picture because she's living in Florida. So I sent her a nice picture, and she's a big fan of playing.
I wish we would have the picture. We could have threw it up there.
That's all right. Easter. That's okay.
No.
I don't have it on me right this second.
All right.
I should have wore the dress.
There you go.
Yeah, but how was yours?
My Easter was great, but my wife is, she's prays a lot of different prayers over the course of the day, and listening to different podcasts. Over the Met game a second, the podcast was, Paula has to get to church first.
Okay.
Easter that's tough.
Right.
So Paula, we get there early. My son's always late, so we got to lay across the bench to save seats. It's embarrassing. It's a little embarrassing when the priest is coming out. He's got to serve the mass. And to correct the LaRocchia family sitting in the front, you can't do that, guys. You can't do that.
Seating arrangements can be very anxiety-ridden.
Yes, but it was not. The kids behaved. The 8-year-old and the 4-year-old behaved. Palm Sunday was the best because my daughter made crosses with the little one in church.
Oh, with the palm.
Yeah, I'm like, she's gonna think every week is palm. She's gonna think. So it was nice. We had a nice day. Went to my son's right up the block. We had some nice food. Very lucky to be able to have a meal. And it was a great day.
It's a blessing to be able to share it with family.
It is definitely a blessing. Anything else I wanted to talk about up front? Last thing. What happened?
Nothing happened. I have something. We can remind the folks, because we have this week and next week to tell everybody what is being done for us in South River, New Jersey by our good friend Eddie.
Why don't you explain it? Because you probably will explain it better. I do.
Well, it is an event speaking about September 11th, and Eddie and the VFW Hall are going to have 4 guests speaking, one of which is our own John LaRocchia, former retired FDNY Hazmat 1, and it's going to be a really, really nice event. Plus, there's going to be all kinds of stuff going on outside, which is nice too. They'll have vendors and give stuff away for the kids.
And they are raising some money with sponsors and stuff and making a donation to the Laughter Saves Lives Foundation.
Yes, they are. So that is May 4th, I believe. Is that right? Is that next Sunday?
It's Sunday. And Joe Napoli's coming down with me too. FDNY Joe Napoli, he'll be down there with me. So
it's a week. It's a week from this coming Sunday.
Thank you, Butch. He's gone.
Oh, bye.
All right. You know what? Let's go to break. I'll bring this up later because it's just a silly thing, but I want to get Michaela out here. So let's go to break. We'll be back with Michaela Cruz. Did I?
This is personal to me. I'm John Field, 9/11 responder and advocate. I walked the halls of Congress for 20 years. You too may qualify for the same 9/11 benefits as I do. It's true, it's the law. If you were south of Canal Street and you had any of the 69 cancers linked to 9/11, you may qualify for compensation up to $250,000 and free health care. Sadly, only 10% of you have enrolled. Access what you are owed. Call now to find out if you qualify. I fought side by side with Barasch and McGarry for 2 decades in Washington, D.C. to get benefits for all victims, not just responders. You owe it to yourself to call Barasch and McGarry, lawyers for the 9/11 community. I trust them. So can you.
And we're back. Left at 6 Live. And our first guest tonight is she's one of the speakers next week at the event that I'm going to be on that Bush just mentioned.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, let's bring her out, Michaela Cruz. So I told Michaela was on the flyer, and I said, and I looked at her bio a little bit. I said, wow, she sounds really interesting. I wonder if she'll do our show, right, Michaela? So and she said, I would be more than happy to do the show. Now, Michaela she was in the World Trade Center on 9/11. I was not in the World Trade Center. I responded in. But as we were speaking on a pre-interview on a Zoom call, we both agreed that we're kind of done talking about that. We don't want to go to that place anymore, even though, and I think she's the same way, to be nice, if somebody would ask us a question, I always answer a question or whatever. But she's done so much since, so much good since. Let's talk more about that. So, hello, Michaela.
Hi.
Hello. Hi, Nicole.
So, after 9/11, what was the first thing you did where you said, you know what? I'm trying to turn the page here. I want to do something, go in a different direction. You know what I'm saying? What was one of the first things that you did?
Well, the first thing I remember, it was only a couple of weeks after the tragedy, my entire team was lost, okay? And I was moved to Florida to do disaster recovery. And I had to speak on behalf of my coworkers up in New York who did survive and were in Short Hills, New Jersey. And the CEO of the company that just bought us out, months before it happened, he asked me to talk about what they can do to help us. And I just decided to take 15 minutes of my time to talk about thankfulness, new beginnings. And if you hear my psychotic puppy in the background, that's her.
It's okay.
And so I found my voice. I never thought that I'd be able to speak about anything, because I was so afraid of public speaking. That was my catapult to becoming an author, to be able to actually use my words and not so much talk about the past, but actually living in the moment that we are in right now. And we're so gifted to have now.
Right. And what was that book about? What was the title of the book?
Pursuing Your Destiny. And the very first chapter, and it's the only chapter in the book that actually talks about my personal experience that day, because that's a day in history. It's not a day in everybody's history. Right. So I wanted to make it so that it's the beginning of it and then reverts back to growing up on the streets of Manhattan. Because those times growing up in the streets gave me the ability to cope with that kind of trauma.
Yeah. Yeah. I grew up on the streets of Queens.
We're in Queens.
Yeah, I was a Queens boy. And now, back to those times, I mean, I don't know about you, but I didn't have a lot, but we didn't know that. We didn't know that. We had a great childhood, great times. So after an event like that, I mean, I was a real mama's boy. I didn't go away to college. I didn't go away to camp. It's like, how am I going to deal with this? And we used laughter, to remember them, but also to heal. Yes. Now, writing, were you always a writer?
I wanted to become an author since I was in high school. I loved English class. I loved literature. I was a big fan of Robert Frost, famous poets who really understood the power of how to express yourself, whether it's love, whether it's joy, whether it's pain. And I found that writing gave me the ability to express the same thing: love, thankfulness, joy, pain.
Did you have a teacher in high school that, or was there a person that pointed out your gift to you, that gave you that seed planted in you to say, hey, you know what, maybe I really can be a writer. I can do this. Who was that voice of inspiration to you?
Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. It was my English teacher. I was doing pretty well in the other subjects, but for some reason I just really wanted to please her. and to show and to prove to myself that what I'm interested in is not a subject that I know I'm not going to be using in the future. So like my trigonometry teacher, I really didn't care about it. It was the passion that I had for writing. And to this day, you know, she saw the book on Facebook, and I told her, "You're the inspiration."
Oh, you know,
Amazing.
I want to get a copy of the book. You know, of course, I'm a firefighter, so I want to get it for free. But I want to. Now,
It's cheap. What he's saying is it's cheap.
I had the same inspiration with my writing, Michaela. I wrote, you know, when I wrote in school, my teacher always used to say, "Become a firefighter in a comic." After she read stuff that I wrote, very, very similar. All right, so you write wonderful book, which I'm gonna read, my first book in a long time. All right, where did you go from there? Now, from what I remember, you teach or you involved with some meditation, yoga, stuff like that.
Yes. So I've been a yoga teacher for almost 10 years. I learned yoga when I was very little, when I was 4, because my dad practiced. So I learned very early on. And so, yeah, I've been guiding in meditation for close to 10 years as well.
And didn't you do some of that? What is,
I used to practice yoga, and I used to do a lot of yoga and Reiki and all of those things. I have since denounced from those things.
I should have known that. Okay.
Over the last 2 years, some things have changed, but we'll talk about that later in the segment. Right now is all about you.
Right.
You know, we're all in a space where we're longing for the giant hole in all of our hearts, because we all have one that's there, whether it's being on the streets of Manhattan or terrible circumstances to save lives, or, you know, messed up childhoods, or whatever the case may be. There's just a hole that we are all longing to fill it and find healing in. And we'll talk about my healing later. But.
Well said. But so your writing, I'm sure, helped you heal. That it was very therapeutic writing. And to me, my pickleball is my therapy right now. I need to get more therapy. I need to speak to somebody. But I can't tell you how much better I feel when I go down the park or Monday nights and I hit the ball around, and I'm like, wow, I feel completely different than when I came down here. And I think events like that are so overwhelming. I mean, we lived these events, and it doesn't go away. It's on the TV. It's, you know, you hear about it. So we need to find something in our lives, whether it be religion, whether it be therapy, whether it be comedy, whatever it is, to try to get us to a normal place, to a place where we can help others, really, you know, and not just sit there and say, poor me.
Right. Not to be a victim.
Right.
Well, I think going back to what you were saying, Nicole, about denouncing that, I grew up Catholic, and I've always been Catholic. And what I found was that I did not denounce yoga as much as I looked to God for guidance. So when I'm practicing and studying the yogic practices, I know that's a completely different religion than Christianity. And everybody knows that. So is Buddhism. But I know when I look to God, when I teach, it's not based on a Hindu concept. It's actually based on how I can be one with God. And when I say that to my students who are Christian or are Catholic or Protestant, whatever they are, they find it to be more of an exercise as opposed to something where you're doing something that could be, you know, worshiping a deity. And so, because my faith, I'm sorry, I just want to let you my faith has never been so strong, probably since COVID happened.
That was
because 9/11, I actually denounced God. Because in one moment I was sitting in church and remembering saying, there's no way this could happen. There's no way you could have done this to us, right? So
he didn't.
But because of something that happened in COVID when I was in the hospital, and I found myself laughing so hard when a nurse was saying, "You only have pneumonia." I mean, it's so what? Your lung collapsed. You know how many people are going through this? Come on, like, get up already. I was like, "What do you mean?" She said, "Just, you have faith, right? You have faith, just get up." I was like, okay. Exactly. And after, after 12 days in ICU, I got out, but I think that it's really just like, I think just knowing your faith and knowing how strong it is, I think that really what makes the difference. I don't need to read the Bible to know.
But Michaela, being around someone like you and Nicole, and there are a few other people in my life that you feel closer to God, you feel more peace. And with everything that's going on in this crazy world, especially all this politics that bring people to fighting and arguing, and we need that kind of stuff more than ever. We need that peace. We need to be with the people that make us feel that way and cut out those other people, because it's just not healthy. It's just not healthy. I find myself, getting sick over it, especially mentally. Some days I just, so to listen to you talk and to see this face, I don't see it enough. But it makes me feel like, yeah, you know what? There's a lot of good out there. I don't want to dwell on the negative. There's a lot of good. And you two guys are an example. The new book, quickly. Yeah. Okay. What is it going to be about? We know we don't have a title yet.
Yeah. So, like I said, ground zero happened. It was something that happened to me. My life completely changed in 2016. And I hit my ground zero with everything. I mean, my entire life went to ground zero. And so I had to pick up, after a huge loss in my life, I had to pick up and find my way back, first of all, to New York, because I was going to college in Texas. And the journey from having nothing to getting to where I am when I moved into this apartment, the journey was painful, but it also just gave me the opportunity to talk about something other than tragedy. Because every chapter, it moves you. It moves you from, okay, it really isn't that bad. It's still there. It's not that bad. Oh, the next chapter, oh, you know what? It's just getting better and better, because our perception changes, not the experience. The perception of how I saw things different. It was different than what is in the other book.
Right. It takes a long time to get there.
It took almost 9 years. So.
But I do definitely want to read the book. I appreciate you coming on. We'll have you back on again, definitely after the book, if that's okay with you. And I look forward to meeting you in a few weeks. I'll have your Laughter Saves Lives t-shirt. So if you do any major interviews on networks and stuff, make sure you're wearing the Laughter Saves Lives shirt, Michaela.
All right.
It was nice talking to you. I hope you do still stay tuned in.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Thank you. We'll be right back with a special guest, our resident Jewish guy, Leslie.
It's the third annual Equal First Aid fundraiser. Join us on April 24th from 6 to 9 p.m. for a sit-down dinner at Me and You restaurant in Bethpage. It will be an evening filled with a live and silent auction, raffles and 50-50, a comedian, great music and delicious food. Tickets are available through Eventbrite.
And we're back with our resident Jewish guy.
All right, thank you.
I just wanted to throw up one or two. How many flyers do you have, Bob? Williston Park Fire Department, Laughter Saves Lives, will be there in a few weeks. We have Eric Heft, I think, headlining that show. Awesome. John Santos going to be on. Bridget. And what's that other flyer? I can't read it from here. Oh, that's the thing in a few weeks that I'm speaking at in Jersey. Good.
Oh, there you go. That's a great lineup.
Great lineup. Great lineup. Danny Calabrese will be emceeing, and I will be eating a lot of sausage and peppers. So
Awesome.
let's dig in.
All
So
right. Hello.
good.
Welcome.
Good. Hello, Mr. Deegan. Always a pleasure having you on the show.
It's nice to be here. I'm wearing my officials.
Laughter
there
Saves
you go.
Live shirt. Les is a pickleball player with me. We play a lot. We haven't played in a while, but we have played a lot. But I called Les this week and I said, listen, I think I understand. I'm Catholic. I think I understand the Catholic holiday, the Jewish holiday Passover. Why don't you come on, Les, and just give our viewers a little bit of what's going on.
Well,
during your
I
holiday.
appreciate you giving me the opportunity to represent
Yes.
our people.
That's right. That's right. You have 2 minutes.
All right. Well, first,
No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
in essence,
Yes.
Passover, we remember when Moses led the Jewish slaves out of Egypt, across the desert, and into America's boardrooms.
No, he did no.
It's very, very important. No, it's well, the Jewish people have been oppressed for many, many years, of course. But in essence, Passover celebrates when back in ancient times, the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt. All those pyramids, the Jewish slaves were built. They were treated awful by the evil Pharaoh, who was the Egyptian king. And everyone knows of Moses. Moses originally, the movie The Prince of Egypt, he grew up as royalty in Egypt until he finally figured out that when he was a baby, his mother, to save him from perishing, put him in a basket.
Oh, I know that story.
Yeah,
right,
where he was adopted and then finally, when he realized that he was a Hebrew, and you also saw the 10 Commandments. But I'm going to give you the real story here.
Was that when he was in the basket?
When he was in the basket, that's right. So what he did was he had conversations with God. We all have our conversations with God, where God said, "Listen, somebody has to free the Jewish slaves, and I need a man, a real person to do this." So what he did is he told Moses to go to Pharaoh and say, "Listen, you have to let my people go." But Pharaoh was very, no way,
right?
No way this is happening. Moses must have emailed Pharaoh 1,000,000 times, and Pharaoh would just not answer.
I think you're
emails.
exaggerating. Maybe it was 100
So
times.
anyway, so God had his plan. So to get the point that he gave him plagues, he turned water into blood. There were frogs, locusts, hail, and then finally the big thing that broke the camel's back, and this is sort of like the story of why it's called Passover. The final straw was that the angel of death, in order to get through to Pharaoh, would kill the firstborn of every Egyptian, of every household. But the Jewish people were told that to sacrifice the lamb and smear the lamb's blood on the door so that the angel of death would know that that's a Hebrew, so to spare that life. So
Passover, is that what the term goes from?
There was that terrible night when all the firstborn Egyptians died.
So Les, are you saying that the angel of death passed over the homes?
Yes,
that's what I was getting at.
But however, there is a story that the real story of Passover is when Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "Listen, Pharaoh, I'm about to free all the Jewish slaves, but before we go, all those pyramids we built for you? Pass over the money you owe us."
Les Deegan, our local Jewish guy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for explaining that, Les, to me.
Is that it, or can I do my closer?
Oh, do your closer. I didn't realize you had a closer.
You said write a few funny things, so I did.
I do the closer.
Actually, what's interesting is that Passover and Easter the same time. But
right.
Last week, remember that Jewish people don't commercialize the holidays the same way the Christians do. Am I right?
Yes.
I think the Catholics definitely commercialize it, so to say.
Yeah, well, true. But here's my point and the punchline.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay.
Shut up, Nicole. Let me get to my joke.
All right. Okay. That's okay. So, see, because here, to give you a point, last week was Passover and Easter when you went to the mall.
Yep.
You didn't see 150 little Jewish kids waiting on the 2-hour line to take a picture with Moses.
No.
No. On Sunday, you didn't see all the neighbors' kids running around my front lawn, on the gefilte fish hunt.
No.
You didn't see that. That's my time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Les Deegan, our local Jewish guy.
I hope you had a blessed Easter. Wishing all my Jewish friends a Zis Pesach. And now it's time for me to go.
Thank you, Les Deegan.
Thank you, Les.
So we're going to get right to our next guest. We're not going to break Nicole Lamonaco, who's been
that's
sitting
me.
here as co-host. Now, bloop, she's our guest.
Okay.
So I met Nicole years ago,
Yeah,
and you were a very lovely person always.
thank you.
But at one point in your life, it seems there's a change that took place.
Yes.
Where you became, I'm going to use the term religious. You could correct me, whatever, but I'm saying you seemed, your Facebook posts seemed to be more light and inspirational. And then when I would see you, there just seemed to be a different way about you. So was there anything that happened, or was it a gradual thing to bring you from there to here?
It was a very, it was a
Really?
Yeah, it was a it turned over real quick. So as you guys know, I briefly talked about this last night. So I was dating James Raniolo back in August, almost 2 years ago. And during that time, him and I grew very close and had a relationship, and he passed away. And
I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
yeah, two weeks after he passed away, his mother passed away, and it was like back-to-back hit of that. And actually, during that time, Les was always such a light during that. Like, you'd always message me and send me just inspirational things. And
how nice.
He sent me a song that was by Carol King, and that song,
Now
man,
and forever.
Yeah, Now and Forever. And that song, it meant so much to me that you sent that to me. And that song had so much meaning and at that time, but and it still does. But needless to say, during that, I was practicing yoga and meditation and Reiki and all of those things. And I believed in all of that stuff. I built a business around it. I made a whole life around it. I had inspirational quotes of searching, deeper into myself and going into, self-healing and self-help and self, filling myself with more self. And as Michaela had mentioned, she was, brought to her own ground zero in, more ways than one, quite literally. And I too was brought, I was not going through 9/11, but eternally I was brought to my own ground zero. And there was no self left for me to fill myself with. I didn't have any self to draw from anymore. I was not there. And
was it like a depression?
It was very bad. It was very, very bad. And with that being said, James's best friend is a Christian, and we were having a conversation with one another, and he started asking me all these questions about Reiki and yoga and all this stuff. And I'm like, why are we talking about this right now? Like, James has passed away. Like, I don't want to talk about this. And he was starting to talk to me about Jesus. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about this right now. Like, I'm uncomfortable. I don't like it.
Which is a lot of people.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. Can we talk about anything else? And he kept, talking to me about Jesus. And I was listening, and in real time of the moment that he called me, a phone call came in, and the phone call was another friend of his. And he was like, what are you doing right now? And he was on speakerphone. And he said, oh, I'm just in my yard talking to Nicole. And he's like, I don't like her. And he's like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, you don't even know this girl. Why could you say that? And he's like, I don't know. She's into all that yoga and Reiki, and we don't need a demon around us right now.
I'm just so confused because I've never looked into yoga and I thought yoga was a like something we did for exercise. I didn't realize there was a whole
I
thing behind it. But go ahead.
Did not either, you know. So I didn't know I didn't understand what was happening. Like I didn't understand why that was being said. I didn't
Right.
understand why what I was doing was something that would make somebody say that about me. Like I didn't get it. I was like, what is going on? So with that being said, I was scared. I felt frightened in that moment, and I started shaking and I was trembling, and I felt the fear of God come over me, like
a physical sensation.
Like I turned white, and I was literally like, it was middle of August. It was hot, and I was like cold. I'm like this, and I was like, I have to go, and I left, and I went home, and from that moment to three months in, so this was James passed away, and then this conversation happened, and then his mom passed away. And
you were close with his mom?
Well, we were becoming close, you know, and in the hospital, well, James was in the hospital for 3 days on life support. So when somebody's dying in front of you like that, and I'm sure you know it, you know, a lot of vulnerability happens, and a lot of things everything is raw, and it's exposed, and it's real. It's not like some thing in a movie. Like it was really happening, and you learn a lot about people in traumatic situations. You learn a lot about people and how they show up in trauma. So with that being said, months were going by now, and you know, I was hearing this voice in my head that was saying, this is all your fault. This is all your fault that you did, because I was called a demon. Now it was my fault that I felt like I was a murderer. Like I felt
but it was only one person that said that, right?
Yes, but I can't describe to you because first of all, the other thing I got to give you the backstory of this was prior to this all happening, my neighbor and I were getting the mail one day, and he was like, Nicole, like, what do you do for a living? I was I do Reiki and yoga. And he literally took a full step away from me, and he went like this, and he went, I think I'll just stick to Jesus for my healing. And I was like, okay, jerk, like whatever, like, you know, like, all right. And then I saw him pull into church one day while I was driving behind him, and I was like, oh, well, that's where he must go to church, Mr. Righteous, you know, like, screw you, kind of. And then all this stuff was happening to me now, and that conversation with Rich was like activated in my head, and I was like, well, why did he do that to me? So I went into the church like a gangbuster searching for him, and I'm like, why did you say that to me? And he was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I'm like, you said this, and you took a step away from me, and I need to know why you said that. And he was like, just come sit down, sit down. I'm like, I don't want to sit down, I don't care. He's like, just come and listen. So I was like, fine. So I sat down, and the pastor was talking about the book of James that day. So he had my attention. So I'm like, okay. Needless to say, I went up to the altar. I started crying. I started repenting. I started saying things. I didn't know what I was doing, but I started searching every bishops, priests, my cousins, anybody who might know something.
Right. To
I
talk
was
to them
asking questions.
Right.
And every single person gave me the same answer. Read the Bible for yourself. Read the Bible for yourself. Read it for yourself. I don't want to read the Bible. I don't want to do this. I don't need it.
Can I ask you a silly question?
Sure.
Is the Bible hard to read?
No. And because
I've never, I mean, I've been to church for years and heard a lot of the stories, and I always listen to the homilies and stuff, but I've never really sat down and read the Bible.
In the Catholic Church, they don't really give you a Bible to read for yourself. They let the priest read it to you.
Right.
And the word of God in there is, you know, it's the word of God. It's amazing. And I fought it tooth and nail because I was like, I don't need this. I don't need it. And then I started reading it, and I was feeling conviction in my heart about things that I was doing. And that was my personal conviction.
Right.
I can't say that everybody's conviction, you got to take that up with God yourself. But for me, that was a personal conviction that I must denounce from those things. So I did. And are we okay on time? You're good?
We got about a minute.
Okay. I'm going to wrap it up in this minute too. Long story short, I fought it tooth and nail, and then I finally surrendered, and I was at Flowtopia. James Michael, shout out to you, who owns Flowtopia. There's a deprivation tank that's there. I turned the water red because
What's a deprivation tank?
it's like a salt water.
Oh,
bath
okay,
that
okay,
you
okay,
go in.
okay.
And I had a conversation with Jesus. I called him out and I said, Jesus, if you're really who you say you are, I'm making this water red because there's power in the blood. As we just talked about the Passover, they put the blood over the house, and there's power in the blood of Jesus for what he did on the cross. And I said, if you're really who you say you are, show me. And I got in the water, put his hands on my chest. Jesus stepped in the water. His feet were in the water. His robe was in the water. His hands touched my chest. The horrible things that were going on inside of me was taken, casted out of my body, and I was never the same after that. And I got up on my knees, and there was a halo around my head because the pillow got stuck to my head. So it was a life.
Yeah, it's
altering.
It is. It's an amazing story, and all I can say is some people may look at the call and go, "Oh, that's a little much." And other people, if you're around people like this, if you hang out one night with somebody like this, there's something going on here. This is simply a good person, a powerful person in a way that I could hang out with her. I could see her, and she just looks at me and smiles, and I'm like, "Oh, I feel good. I feel closer to God. I feel
Amen.
like
That's something
something good."
I just
And
want
you
to bring
do
it
that.
wherever I go.
And you
It's all
do
him.
that. You do that.
Amen.
So thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for letting me share. Thank you for
Yes,
allowing me
thank
to
you
share
for
it.
being here. We're not going to go to break, all right? Is that okay, Bobby? I just want to go right to Veronica Mosey. All right, we're going to go bring out our comic, Veronica Mosey. Now, I know Veronica
Well, hello, everybody. It's good
I know
to.
Veronica for so long.
I've seen it's been a long time too.
It does. Only I age, though. You don't look like you've aged since I met you, my dear.
Wow, Botox helps with that, John. And I don't think you're going to go get your face shot up with needles. So
It's been too long, though. And when I saw you on Facebook the other day, I said, "Oh my God, I got to have her on the show." She was always so funny. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's a great messages so far. I feel very inspired. I mean, here I come to be all negative. I'm so sorry.
No. But I just I think it's so cool to be around people like this, who kind of are beaten to a little bit of a different drum than most people, because people may get a little intimidated or whatever. I feel so cool just being next to her and seeing her.
Yeah, well,
my buddy last weekend was on.
I was just talking to somebody about people who are diehard atheists, and I find it amazing that that's actually their religion. It's incredible, actually.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Someone will say, "Oh, will you believe?" I mean, I believe in God. I do believe in Jesus. I think people are just get very they get defensive and angry about it. It's like, well, first of all, how do you know? You don't know. You don't know anything. How can you question me, right? But they're very angry people. They really need God.
Atheists?
Yeah.
Most atheists don't realize how much they actually really do want to have an experience with God.
True.
You just may be afraid.
Yeah.
So you are married to somebody from Australia, which I always get mixed up with Austria.
Yeah.
Very
different.
How that could happen.
Because I'm an idiot.
That's okay.
How does that work?
Was that the
not well. It's very it's interesting. They speak a different language. I don't know if you know that.
No.
They're very they abbreviate a lot of things. They'll walk out of the house and say things like, "Oh man, it's hot as." I'm like, well, how hot is it? They just stop there. They don't have it's a comparison word. They don't recognize that down under yet.
That's funny.
I'm always like, what do I have to wear? You know what I mean? Like it's crazy it is. But the hottest thing about being married to an Australian, a lot of people think it's very sexy, right? It's an accent. It's amazing, right? It's great. It's what he sounds like on a daily basis. I think the hottest thing about being married to an Australian is having a mother-in-law that lives 10,000 miles away. It's very attractive. And but we definitely differ in our opinions about things. He's a very organized guy. You know those people who have all their ducks in a row. He likes to put syrup in every single square of his waffle.
Right.
And kind of, like when you meet somebody, you love everything about them when you first meet them. You know what I mean? Like I used to call my friends and be like, "Oh my God, look at this thing he does with this waffle. It is so cute." And I'm like, "Cut the crap with the waffle. We're done. We've been at IHOP for 3 hours now." But he's very. One thing I didn't. I've not talked to you in a while. I had a mini stroke, a little TIA action.
Oh, I did not know that.
I did, yes. Yeah, it was. We don't even really know exactly when it happened, but I got an MRI and all this stuff. The reason why I got the MRI, just leading from my husband here, telling you, he's a very, like I said, very organized. I'm like, I call myself all tabs open. Like I never know what's going on. And I started forgetting things and dropping things, breaking stuff. And he says, you know what your problem is, which is a great way to start a conversation in a marriage. And I said, what's my problem? He said, your problem is you got to put things back where they belong, right? Put things back where they belong. Everything has a home, right? And then he says, you got something wrong with your head. That's what he said to me. So I scheduled a 3-hour neurological evaluation, like just to spite him. Right. And it turns out I have no problems with cognitive function. I have problems with something called executive function, which means I need to put things back where they belong. And I think my husband just belongs back in Australia, to be honest with you guys. It's very frustrating.
Gotta go back home to his mother.
No, yes. I know that you had a daughter. Is you still just the one? Your daughter?
Yeah, just the one. Yeah, she's 11. She knows everything. It's very interesting. She's very, the children are little social justice warriors now. That's what's happening. I tend to do a lot of voices on stage. Like I'm doing Kamala Harris. I will say I'm doing very good. I think it's pretty good. I mean, like sometimes people will say, like, remember when she was like on Anderson Cooper and everybody thought she could answer a question, which never happened. And Anderson Cooper's like, tell us about the border. She goes, let's talk about something besides the border. So what happened was, and mind you, my brain's all over the place because I'm going through menopause, and you're coming with me. That's how it goes. But my daughter doesn't like it when I do voices. She thinks she expressed that very clearly to me. I was doing something for her. I said, I'll say, I was doing, Greg Rice from 1010 Wins. Rice talks like this, talks about the traffic, wrecks on the highway, tells you which route to take, which route not to take. So I was doing Greg Rice for my daughter, and she looks at me and says, Mommy, when you do voices, isn't that kind of mean? Swear to God. And I said, Mommy, when you do voices, me. I was like, it's a skill and it pays your bills, okay? Yeah, it's she has a lot of opinions about that stuff.
I do you remember that day that you called me when your daughter fell down the stairs? Do you remember that day?
Yes, I do. Oh my gosh, I forgot I called you.
You were doing a gig for me, I think, that night.
Oh, that's right.
You called me and you said, like, I think you were asking me actually for advice or whatever. You were just so in a state, and I was like,
I wasn't in a state. I think I really remember it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She got on the stairs in her stroller. It was one of those things where I just didn't. I went out the house like 10,000 times a day. You know what I mean, with the stroller, and I just thought I pressed the brake all the way down, and it didn't engage. And then I turned to lock the door, and then I turned back, and the stroller was flipped upside down on the steps.
Oh my God!
It was awful. It was awful. Actually, yeah, I barely remember. Isn't that crazy? I
haven't forgotten you. That was one of the most stressful things I think in my life ever. Because you were in such a state when you called me. I was surprised you even called me. Like, what are you calling me for?
Yeah, she was at the hospital, but it was a very life. But that's how dedicated I am as a comedian. You know what I mean? I have to make sure that the gig is covered. Yeah. But yeah, she ended up being fine from that. Maybe that's why she gets so frustrated with voices. I don't know if she hears things in her head from hitting it. But she, I don't know. That was a long time ago. That's 11 years. You know what I mean? She was 2, so that was 10. Yeah.
Do you have one story for us about your comedy career? Worst gig, funniest gig, something that happened to you at a gig that's unusual?
Jeez. I will say, it's interesting to me that my worst bomb ever. Bombing is for the audience. That's when you just do terribly. It has nothing to do with terrorism.
Oh, I'm king of the bomb. I understand the bomb.
So what happened was I was at Caroline's Comedy Club, which is now closed, and it was actually 3 comedians from Long Island at the time. But this is 17, 18 years ago. I have no idea who was even on. Right. And all I know is I was opening, and I shouldn't have been there because it was 3 comics from Long Island, a magician, and then me, which is a terrible setup. And they were throwing a blow-up doll around the room, and it was already like, this is they don't like women is pretty much what happened. And I didn't do well. And then I kind of bailed on stage. This guy started like booing me, and then everyone started booing. It was like 300 people booing me. It was really bad. And I did not know how to recover at the time. Now I would be fine, you know.
How many
but
years into comedy were you at that point?
Oh, probably four years, maybe.
That's tough.
Okay.
Yeah, it was rough. So what happened was I basically was like, thank you so much, guys. That was great. Good night. And I left the stage, and poor Justin McKinney was hosting, and he ran up, like he had to run. It's pretty far from backstage.
Right.
You know? And so then I got off stage. I remember I called my brother, who's like one of my closest buddies, and I was like, I just crashed and burned at Caroline today. And he goes, you what? You got a car accident? What happened? What happened? And I was like, I bombed at Caroline's. And he's like, oh, I thought you were hurt. You know, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And I think I didn't
Veronica, we have to get going.
Oh yeah, no worries. Thank you so much.
Thank you for taking the time. I hope to
listen,
see you on a future Laugh to Stage live show. Where are you going to be this weekend?
This weekend I'll be at the Fox Hollow. Actually, it's a nice catering hall. Woodbury.
Are you gonna be
So I'll be there. So
Long Island.
come on out in Strong
You're gonna
Island.
be there with Carrie Carabas.
That's
and,
right. I'll be there with Carrie
Mike
Carabas.
Alsula,
I
right?
saw that flyer.
That's gonna be a great show.
Yes,
Thank you
great
so
show.
much for having
We'll
me.
see you soon. Thank you, Veronica.
All right.
Good
Have
night,
a good
everybody.
night.
We'll be back. A lovely show. Right now, Nicole, Les, and I, we're going to the diner. Good night, everybody.
Good night.